On the Ground Parenting is a project of Muskoka Family Focus, a registered Canadian charity. They rely on your support to keep the show going and to continue their great work helping families. To connect with our hosts and to show your support, join us at patreon.com/onthegroundparenting. You can join for free or for any amount you would like to give.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Ground Parenting. This parenting podcast is brought to you by the Parent Ed staff of Muskoka Family Focus. We are here with you. My name is Sandy, and I'm joined with
Sam
and Kelly.
Woohoo! We've got some of the team here, and let's get chatting about a day that is being acknowledged across Canada, January 27th. It's Family Literacy Day. And Family Literacy Day is all about bringing the family together, expanding on our awareness and engagement of literacy activities. And every year they have a very unique theme. And this year the theme is Make Mealtime Family Learning Time. So I thought we could dive into that and explore. We sort of talked about recipes. We sort of talked about mealtime, but let's get into it with the lens of literacy and the interaction of family. So it might be many generations. Who knows what it will be, what it will mean. So what arises for you?
There's just so much learning with being in the kitchen. You can measure things, you can read recipes. There's just so many different ways you can learn in the kitchen.
Yeah, and for me, what immediately jumped to mind is I really value reading with my kids. I value books. And as a young parent, I had a hard time reading at bedtime. Read bedtime stories. I was so done by the time it was bedtime that I had no for bedtime stories. We did a lot of audio books, and that's one of the ways my kids got books. But when it comes to mealtime, my girlfriend, whose kids are younger than mine, and so I was done this stage by the time she revealed this brilliant idea that she reads to her kids at lunch. They have lunch together, and then she reads a book. And I thought, where were you when my kids were little? I have energy at lunch. I did most of my meal prep before lunch, but I have no energy at bedtime. And I wish I had known that. I could read books at lunch.
Yes, you can read books absolutely anywhere. I think maybe because my parents were avid readers and they had books everywhere all the time. That was just something, whether it was at breakfast or lunch or whatever. Not that everyone is disengaged at all, but even sometimes it would be reading the cereal box or reading the yogurt container or different products that you might have on the table would be even part of the conversation for that mealtime. But I get it, Kelly, that fatigue at bedtime and trying to muster up. First of all, keeping my eyes open. As soon as I would lie on the bed with the kids, my body is saying, it's sleep time, Sandy. Mealtime, though, brings a whole bunch of other stuff to the table. Ha, 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 ha. And it might be actually that there isn't a table. I can remember sharing with someone who was presenting to a group that I was facilitating when they were talking about conversations at the dinner table or reading at the dinner table. I said, well, this family doesn't eat at a table. So we might have to work around that. And I think it's just the idea of wherever you're gathering for a meal, how can you bring in something like conversation? Or like you talked about, Sam, how can we bring the family in to maybe reading a recipe and preparing the meal together? I know that's big for you, Kelly, that whole meal prep together part. Have there been times when you've been following a recipe and things have gone a little awry, or has it all gone smoothly?
I think for us, it's the disaster in the kitchen sometimes. I would say it goes relatively smoothly, but my partner tends to be on the cleanup crew, and he would say, and I quote, "Did you have to use every single dish in the entire kitchen?"
I had my best baking experience this Christmas season because I was invited to go to my in-laws' house because my mother-in-law hosts a baking day for the grandchildren. My kids were not interested in attending, which is not unusual for them, but my stepdaughters and my niece were there, and my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law's entire role was to ensure that we all had all the tools we need clean whenever we needed them.
Wow.
So we baked and she kept washing everything as we used it. It was amazing.
Oh, I'm bowing down.
Like I had no idea that baking could be so fun because I didn't have to clean up a darn thing.
That sounds awesome.
It was delightful.
That's a gift. Okay, so I want to bring literacy into it. And so it might be that you will have a list of tasks. So maybe there will be the cleanup. You could read that list. Which chore would you like to do? Would you like to be the washing person? Would you like to be the mixing person, the pouring person? So even just bringing in a little bit of literacy that way. Besides the vocabulary, it might be what they can see as far as their printed word.
Mhm.
I also want to mention that in Canada, there is an honorary chairperson, and that is Barbara Reid. And Barbara Reid has been involved for quite a few years. And if you don't know Barbara Reid is an illustrator and also an author. And her unique illustrations are made out of plasticine. And so she will create these incredible pictures. Then her husband, who was a professional photographer, would photograph them, and that's how the illustrations would come into being for the book. I encourage you, though, there's a list so long. Imagine my hand, going above my head and stretching down below my belly button. There's a great big long list of Barbara Reid books that she has illustrated and authored as well. So take a look at some of those creations. And if you go online, you can also check out Barbara Reid, and she will give tutorials about how to do an image using the plasticine. So what's in the background, what's in the foreground, and the unique ways that you can use different tools. What about, if you ever buy a bag of onions and that mesh and how you can press that into the plasticine and get a special effect. And so I encourage you to take a look at the work that she has created. She has come up with a tip sheet. So here are some tips from Barbara Reid. So you can just respond, Callie, Sam, and say what has worked out for you in regards to Barbara Reid's tips. We've already talked about the first one. The first one was follow a recipe together. And she talks about picking a recipe to make as a family. So I even thought this might be a great activity to use in the family meetings. We talked about family meetings before. So that might be a great thing to bring to the table there. And you could talk about the different steps. And anyone who's ever cooked before, that if you're putting a meal together anyway, you really want to have maybe your rice cooked at the same time as, maybe your vegetables, and how do you coordinate all of that? So those are cooking instructions that you might want to follow. Okay, so the next one here on the list, tell me how you've included your children in making a grocery list.
That's a really common one at our house. We started, I think, with a list on the fridge, and now we have the list on the chalkboard. But we started from an early age of if you use it, it goes on the grocery list. So that's a bit of an ongoing one. And sometimes I'd use it in conjunction with a recipe. We started our kids being responsible for cooking a meal a week when they were fairly young. The challenge of doing that is you have to be willing to eat really simple or sometimes not yummy meals, but mostly it worked out. But then they'd find the recipe and then they'd add it to the grocery list. So that was a couple of ways we got that in.
When my children were young and we were still getting flyers in the mail, I can remember a few times when I felt like I was really nailing it as a parent because I would have them go through and cut out the things, pictures of what they wanted, and glue it to a piece of paper. Now that the kids are older, I send out a group chat reminder on Thursday nights. I'll be placing a grocery order tomorrow morning. If there's anything you would like to have delivered in the grocery order, please text it to me before 9 a.m. So we have evolved.
Yes, yes. I was talking with another family the other day, and they mentioned how they have, I can't remember the name of the app, but allows them to be coordinated as a family. And so there's like a running tally in this app of groceries that are needed. So it's a step above. On my fridge, there's a list. And my kids grew up knowing that if you had the last drink of milk, if you took the last spoonful of yogurt, then those items must be entered on that list, because otherwise, especially if you want to have it the next time you open the fridge, you might want to add it to the list or it will be forgotten.
Mhm.
Yeah, so a grocery list takes on a whole multitude of ways, right?
We switched to the text idea in our house because pen to paper activities were tricky for my kiddos. So we do have a list on the fridge that sits there empty because we've just moved on to the idea of texting the list, which is more attainable for everybody in our house. So I think having that flexibility is also important, to have something in place that works for everyone. So,
Mm,
and I mean, sometimes I veto things that are texted to me. I'll be like, nope, those are out of season. We're not buying those right now, or whatever needs to happen. But yeah.
yeah. The next thing here is get crafty with food packaging. Make crafts together using food packaging. Might be plastic containers, glass jars, or recycled cardboard. Have you ever done that?
Caterpillars out of egg cartons.
Okay.
Yep.
Just cutting out letters out of cereal boxes, whether it's to play like a Scrabble game while we're eating breakfast or to decorate a card when the kids couldn't print, they could cut things out and write happy birthday cutting things out.
We used the cardboard to make a cube. And then, Sam, do you remember that cube that we would have for the circle time?
There's one in my van.
Oh, there you go. So we would make them out of cardboard because that's how we made them in family math. And we would just make the cube and then put on plain paper, wrap it in plain paper, and then we would draw something on it if we wanted an activity or a song or a book or something like that. And if there was dispute going on, then the cube would come in to resolve that. The next one is eat your words. Play with your food and write words and messages to your family with alphabet cereal and soup. And they say in brackets, we like cookie letters too. At one moment when I was reading this, I thought, are they going to tell us to make letters with cooked spaghetti noodles?
That would be fun.
And wouldn't it though?
It's so funny. It was, as soon as you said play with your food, I was picturing my youngest son. He used to, whenever he would have yogurt, I don't even know why this started. He would dump the yogurt out on the table, and then he would write in it and play in it as he was eating it. And I always felt this external pressure to intervene, but it was actually really fascinating to watch. And eventually he stopped doing it. He doesn't still dump his yogurt on the table, but he just loved that feeling of like piddling around in it with his fingers as he was eating it. So that was a great way for him. I think that's when he first showed me that he knew how to form the first letter of his name was in his yogurt on the table.
Great fun. How about for you, Callie?
Well, you're making me think about the little alphabet noodles that they used to have. And I know we played with alphabets, but I can't remember if they were the noodles or the crackers or the cookies, but it would just be fun. I'm eating a K. Haha, I'm eating your letter or whatever. Just, random conversation about letters.
And I remember one of the stores, their house brand pretzels were alphabet
Yes.
pretzels because I used to purchase them for a lot of different events.
Family literacy events. I was just about to
Exactly.
mention the alphabet pretzels.
It might have been pretzels now that you say that. Maybe it was you guys and the pretzels.
Yes. Okay, the next one is play What's That Word? Introduce new food words like zucchini or quinoa and look them up together. Talk about where the food comes from and how it's used. Have you ever had this experience with your children, talking in more detail about the food that they're eating?
Somebody gave us a brilliant idea when our kids were little. So instead of my kids getting to choose a chocolate bar or a treat, we let them choose one new fruit or vegetable, anything they wanted in the grocery store. And sometimes we didn't know what it was. So we would do exactly that, like look it up, figure out how we're supposed to eat it. Do you cut it in half? Do you cut it in quarters? Do you stick your whole face in? Do you pick it? So yeah, that was our adventures in food.
So that's pretty easily attainable now with Google, but I'm just trying to think, Google probably wasn't in your pocket when your kids were younger. So did that then necessitate a trip to the library, or how did you gather that information?
I think we probably did a combination of asking people who might know.
Mhm.
And I love that chapter in How to Talk So Kids Will Listen that says, even if you know the answer, cultivating this ability for your kids to discover the answer
Mhm.
is so important. So we might have deliberately asked grandma and grandpa, but there still was enough internet, not in my phone, not in my pocket, that I think it probably did help too.
Mhm.
I ran into a grandparent from one of my parenting programs years ago, and she was playing the what's the surprise snack with her grandson. So she was shopping with her grandson to purchase a snack that would be taken to daycare, and she captioned it with what's the surprise food, so that it wasn't, you have to eat something new, you have to try something new. So but it became that because the child was so inspired to try and trip up their friends at daycare that it was definitely that something new food
Oh, that's
product.
fun.
So the next one is label the kitchen. Make removable sticky note labels for everyday items in the kitchen like refrigerator, spoon, cup. Write the item name in one or more languages to help learn new words together. Have you ever done anything like labeling?
Not well, I have a label maker and I do enjoy labeling things. So there are many labels in our kitchen, but that's usually just that's it brings me joy. It doesn't bring anyone else joy. They kind of tease me about it, to be honest. Like, does it really need two labels on it? Yes, one on the lid and one on the side in case something's stacked on top of it. But we have a Scrabble magnetic Scrabble game on our fridge. So there's always, even now, words on the fridge. Some of them I cannot say on this podcast because my children are older now. But yeah, there's always words on the fridge, which is fun. Like, it's a fun way of doing it. And I got it originally when my kids were quite young. So we've had these Scrabble pieces for a long time.
Anything for you, Callie?
I don't remember us labeling things, which is quite surprising because my husband got a label maker for Christmas and he is very excited and has been labeling lots of things. Oh, to be an adult. But we always had a really nice set of alphabet. And I think we bought 2 or 3 sets of alphabet things so we could play with words while we were making dinner. And sometimes we'd write sentences. And then I had magnetic poetry for a while. And so you would just go by and reorganize the words into some kind of not really haiku kind of thing.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences here with the letters on the fridge, and I'll speak more about my grandkids because they're mostly current in this experience. The evolution of words, as you mentioned, Sam, from when they're just figuring out how to spell their name, and then the next thing, other words, other people's names, progressing to when they start coming into teen years, then the vocabulary changes and it gets a little more risque because they want to see how you're going to respond to,
Hmm.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. So I have my grandson's name stretched across there. And okay, so carrying on then, create a family cookbook. Collect your family's traditional recipes and make your own family recipe book. Write or type the recipe, include a favorite memory or story, and add your own drawings.
Well, it sounds far more sophisticated than ours. We have a little brown book that if we like a recipe, we handwrite it out in there and we still go and look for it because you can, yes, you can Google things, but if you keep Googling things, but you have a favorite, you don't always find it again or you don't
Hmm.
remember. And, not everybody in our family saw the picture the first time. So, this ranch dressing is as good as that ranch dressing. Absolutely not. This is the ranch dressing we use.
I had that experience recently because key lime pie is a huge hit in my house for celebrating birthdays. So I had bookmarked the recipe, but I don't know what happened with my browser and I couldn't find my bookmark. So I had to Google key lime pie again and it was a different recipe and it didn't turn out the same. And it was fine, but it wasn't as good as the last one. So now we're on a mission to find the last one, the one that we loved.
I'm still at that disorganized stage where, I'm thinking about date squares recently, and I have 3 different recipes, but there's one that sort of culminates all of the best of the 3 of them,
Mhm.
and different family recipes from my parents, some recipes from Denmark that I want to make sure my kids get. And I've just started to, put them together so that I can give both of them a copy.
That's wonderful, and that's something that you don't realize how important it is until the person who holds the recipes isn't there anymore. My sons are always talking about their grandma's recipes. So my ex-mother-in-law's recipes, she had certain things that they absolutely loved. So fortunately they were able to get them from their aunts, but I had that experience at Christmas time because when my mom and stepdad make Christmas pudding, you have to make sauce to go on the Christmas pudding. Well, do you know the only place where the recipe for the sauce is in my mother's head?
Mm.
And my mom isn't as well as she used to be. So standing up in the kitchen at the end of the evening making the sauce so it's hot for the pudding is tricky for her. So she had to try to describe to me how to make the sauce. So this was our second year of me being the person to make the sauce. I'm like, somebody's got to write this down because, yeah, it's in my head now, but will it be by next December? I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Okay, the next one is try a cultural food night. Pick a country, choose a recipe from there, and make it as a family. Why not learn a few words from the language spoken in that country too? Have you ever tried anything like that?
Not so much with the words in the language from the country, but we certainly have tried quite a few cultural recipes, which are generally fairly popular. So, not with Ryan. As we all know, Ryan eats the same thing for dinner every night. So,
Yeah, I think we've done like themes and food nights, but it's reminding me of all the resources that are out there around different language and different words. And, as Sam alluded to, having Google in your pocket wasn't just a reality when the kids were small.
That's for sure. That's for sure. When my children were young, New Year's Eve was when we would gather with two other families. So we actually did that cultural food night as part of New Year's when we were together as families. I think kids tend to try new foods, when there are other kids around as well, more frequently. So that was a win-win for us. And because my dad's side is Danish, we're always bringing in some family recipes and sharing a few words. I can't speak Danish fluently, but I like to bring in some of the phrases that will be used around the meal table for my grandkids now. Okay, let's carry on. Explore nutrition labels. Pick a few of your family's favorite snacks and compare their nutrition labels. Talk about serving sizes. Oh, I'm going to add something else. It might be that you notice that the package that you paid X amount of dollars for half a year ago is now a smaller package at the same price. So you could talk about that within your family. Oh, sorry, I digress. And talk about serving sizes, ingredients, and which items are healthy choices and why.
Well, you might have seen my whole face light up because some brilliant parenting person gave me a tip about sugar and things. And so my kids will still tell you this. I told them they could have any cereal in the entire aisle as long as sugar was not one of the first three ingredients. So they would spend hours hopefully picking up Captain Crunch and putting it down and hopefully picking up Fruit Loops. If you're curious, at the time, at least it was Cheerios. There's about three things, Cheerio Shreddies and like Rice Krispies. But they spend a lot of time doing their homework.
Great activity. Great activity.
we read a lot of labels now for sure, but we spent quite a bit of time talking about healthy choices and what makes a healthy choice. So looking at the nutrition labels to see what sort of daily values of things you were getting in each thing. And so I think that's been really useful. But now my children run for the hills if they see me looking at a label because if I don't have my reading glasses on, they know that one of them is going to have to read it to me. So
A whole other experience around literacy.
yeah.
For me, similar to you, Callie, it was what ingredient fell in which order on the list. And so my kids were quite, disappointed, yes, because the whole sugar piece. And it was learning the other words. What else is sugar called? Because it might not be labeled sugar, but there's going to be a lot of sugar in there. We'll take a look at the fructose, the this, the that, everything. And nowadays the list is even more expansive. But with my youngest grandson, who was more than 4.75, he will often say he could eat something because it's healthy. So the conversation now is, well, what makes something healthy? And it's a bit hilarious, the response that I get from him. So for him, it's now getting into looking at the labels. If it's an item that has a list of ingredients, if it's an apple, if it's a carrot, then you don't get to see that. So, okay, moving on to the last thing. Kitchen cupboard scavenger hunt. Make a list of items to find in your kitchen, such as something that starts with B, or a can of tomatoes. Read labels together and talk about what each item is used for. Have you ever played this kind of a game?
Not explicitly, no. There's sometimes go get the can of whatever out of the cupboard, so they have to go find whatever it is if you need it. But no, not. I honestly have not played that game.
Like, I make up games all the time on the spot. If we were bored at a grocery store, I could see myself like, go find me a can that has something in it that starts with B. But that's my kind of, like, I don't remember it explicitly because I did it all the time if I had to make my kids use some energy and kill some time.
Yes, I've never played this particular game. I have, like similar to Sam, asked children to get something out of the cupboard. And so I know that in the beginning, children will look for the pictures. So
Mhm.
getting them to look for the letters and not notice the picture can be a little bit of a challenge, because I think we always resort to looking at the image, the label. But I think it's a great way to bring conversation about food items, and how many different ways that you can use food. So, this is a whole other way to bring family literacy into mealtime. We expanded on it quite a bit. Was there anything that we didn't talk about in regards to literacy and mealtime family learning time that has significance or relevance for you and your family?
I think we really covered it. I can't think of anything to add. Kelly, can you think of anything?
No, we covered all the ways we can use words and food together, including making words in your food. So I think we're done.
Pretty comprehensive.
Things that are sort of cropping up for me now, I'm thinking about books. What comes to mind for me actually is a book I've written myself, and there's a repeating phrase through it: with a crunch and a munch and a choo choo choo, with a crunch and a munch and a choo choo choo, with a crunch and a munch and a choo choo choo. I'd like more, please. So, the concept of my book is teaching children about how to share food around the table, maybe at mealtime, how you might pass, how you might take something and try it, and then, just adding a little bit of fun with a rhyme. So that's my own little book that's not published. Then other books. So there are books about growing vegetables. There's a book about compost stew. That book was Wolf, is her last name, the author illustrator from the States. Oh my goodness, I should have more titles of books available to me that I should give to you.
Stone soup is one that always pops into my brain when I think about meals and books.
And Stone Soup is a great imagination one, and it really is a great community one too, because
Mhm.
the whole idea of not having enough to eat and somebody building soup around a stone, people weren't contributing anything, but then this person said, I'm going to start with this stone, and what can you add? And then everybody adds a little wee bit, and then collectively they have a huge pot of soup. Oh, there's Stregonona that's about spaghetti as well. The spaghetti that kind of grows and grows and grows. So that's a fun book. Preposterous. I know if I just had a minute more, I'd have be rhyming off a whole bunch of the books for you
Well,
guys.
maybe you can even add them to the show notes. The two that come to mind for me is just recipe books, like letting kids
Mhm.
look through a kid's recipe book. And I know there's one still on my shelf that was 3 ingredient recipes. So when my kids were little, they could successfully make something out of not a ton. And the gardening one made me think of roots, boots, buckets, and shoots. And it's all these
Mm.
fun, different ways to create things out of plants or in the garden with your kids. But I know Sandy has a bazillion floating around in her brain, but
Oh,
not coming out.
I know. Should have thought about this part earlier. Yeah, alligator pie. Yeah,
Alligator pie if I don't get some.
Think I'm gonna
that's
die.
right. That's right. Okay, so anything that arises for you thinking about family literacy, mealtime, or anything else around family literacy, not specific to mealtime, what do you want to say?
I think I just want to say read with your children. And if you are having trouble with reading yourself, there's lots of opportunities probably in your community to improve your reading skills. So it's never too late to work on those literacy skills. And I think that's why it's so important that we have a family literacy day, because it isn't just children who may be new to literacy. Some other folks may also be having struggles with literacy.
Thank you.
And I think for me, this conversation makes me think about the best days when I could be a parent and be patient and be like, which one of these cans is tomato soup? Tomato starts with T, and have the patience for them to find it, or to sit and read with them, which my kids remember every book I read them because they were, scant. And I let them listen to more books instead.
And for me, I just want to encourage everyone to talk about letter sound besides letter name,
Mhm.
because that's how we produce the sound. So I always would tell families, I would hold up a stuffed animal and I would say, we know the name is cow and we know the sound it makes is moo. So together, do that same thing with the alphabet. Instead of just saying A, B, C, D, sing A, B, K, D, and go all the way through so that you can really emphasize there's one letter, two jobs, says its name, and makes a sound. They might be stuck thinking it only says its name and it doesn't make a sound. Okay, go read, go play, go talk. Happy Family Literacy Day. Take a look at abclifeliteracy.ca if you want more information about Family Literacy Day in Canada, January 27th. Take a look. You can join an activity. Farewell.
On the Ground Parenting is a production of Muskoka Family Focus's parent education program. It is made possible by the generous donations of listeners like you. If you'd like to make a donation, sponsor an episode, or just ask a question of one of our hosts, go to linktr.ee/onthegroundparenting. On the Ground Parenting is produced and published by Red Juice Studios. To learn more, go to redjuicestudio.com. Thanks for listening.